Guys, welcome into the top-down sports betting strategy free course where we are going to go over my favorite betting strategy from the beginning to the end. So by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what top-down sports betting is, how you can apply this strategy for yourself, and then specifically certain things that I look for, I like to target. And so I am really just going to information brain dump on this video for you. So sit back, relax, pull up a pen, take some notes, maybe pull up your phone or your laptop because we're going to dive into this. This has been something that has been very transformative for me in my 3 years of sports betting. It's my favorite type of strategy to use. It's very simple and easy to understand and apply, and this video is going to explain it all. So I have been using this, like I said, for over 3 years. As you can see, my September and October so far this year. These are my numbers off of Pickett, a third-party verified bet tracker that pulls in all my bets for my American sports books. I do use books outside of the American books like DraftKings and FanDuel. I do use some offshore sports books, so that information is not captured here because Pickett doesn't support it. But as you can see, this strategy has been working very well for me. So I have some notes pulled up onto the side. Let's just kind of dive in. And obviously, guys, if you find value in this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think of this free course. Make sure to comment down below if you think there's anything that I missed or that you want me to focus on a little bit more. I really appreciate it. But really, what top-down sports betting strategy, what is this? What does this mean? Well, it means that we're really exploiting market inefficiencies in the odds, right? So stop thinking about this as the casual sports bettor. The difference here is that casual sports bettors are really focused on the pick or the play. You know what? I think the Cowboys are going to win this football game this weekend. I like the Cowboys because maybe the other team, they have some injuries. Maybe because, Dak's been on fire. CeeDee Lamb has just been tearing up the defense. With this strategy, we don't really focus too much in a bottom-up approach. We're not looking at, oh, let's look at the statistics and the historical data and the trends and maybe how this team's been playing. We're looking at the sports betting market as a whole, and we're only focused on the price. That's the really first big difference with this strategy compared to others is we only care about the price. So because we only care about the price, we really reference some sharp sports books as our guide, right? We look at Pinnacle, Circa, Bookmaker, BetCris, BetOnline. These are sports books that we use as our reference, as our guide, right? The recreational sports books like a FanDuel, a Caesars, a DraftKings, a BetMGM, those are recreational books. Those are books that you're familiar with. Well, typically, the sharp sports books, they're what we want to use as our reference, as I mentioned, because they have higher limits. They accept more money when it comes to, maybe we're looking at the Cowboys on the money line, right? So what I mean by that is professional sports bettors, betting syndicate groups, they're not wagering $100 or $500 on this play. FanDuel might have a limit of maybe up to $10,000 that they'll take on the Saints money line. While a book like Pinnacle or maybe BetCris, they'll accept maybe $50,000 or $100,000 on that. So we use the sharp sports books as our reference. More money coming in from these professional betting syndicate groups, these pro sports bettors, really helps us solidify where the value is in the market. These recreational sports books like BetRivers, ESPN Bet, BetMGM, they're slower to adapt. They don't react as quickly. So because of that, we can pick off these sports books, these recreational books. And that's what this strategy is. We're really picking off stale numbers. The whole reason that this is even possible is because all sports books set their odds on their own prices, right? It's completely different compared to the stock market, where the stock market's very efficient. If I asked you for the price of Apple's stock right now, whether you went to Robinhood, Fidelity, Yahoo Finance, E-Trade, you're going to see the same price for that sports book, for that stock market price across all four exchanges. Here, with the sports betting market, it's very inefficient. These books are in competition for your business. They want your attention. They want to be unique and stand out. So BetRivers, FanDuel, DraftKings, they all set their odds on their own. Now, books like DraftKings and FanDuel, they create their odds in-house. They create their own odds. Books like BetParks, BetRivers, Desert Diamond, Sugar House, they outsource their odds. They get their odds from a third party called Kambi, okay? Kambi is a book that's very easy to beat. So depending on the sports book that we're talking about, It depends on the odds that we're receiving, right? So there are certain books that are a little bit easier to beat than others, but referencing the sharp sports books that you probably haven't heard before, or if you have, that's because you've been consuming some type of sports betting content. So if you've heard of Pinnacle or BetOnline or Bookmaker, these are the sharp books. One of the other reasons is because BetOnline, as a sharp book, they're one of the first books to release their odds. So when we're looking at, let's say I'm filming this video on a Wednesday, right? So maybe Wednesday night, maybe when we think about the NHL or the NBA for Thursday's games, BetOnline is one of the first books that offers odds for this game, okay? Then outside of that, these other books like Bookmaker Circuit, they just have higher limits. So because there's more money coming into these markets, money lines, spreads, totals, we're able to identify this is where the sharp money is coming in. And so these recreational sports books are very stale to adjust their odds. Now, within this top-down sports betting strategy, the reason that it's a great strategy is because A, we're not spending a ton of time doing a lot of market analysis and research. We don't need to. We don't really care about Justin Jefferson and how maybe the last 10 or 20 games, how many catches has he had? Or how is Justin Jefferson performing on the road maybe on the evening games, Sunday night football games or Monday night football games? We don't care about Garrett Cole's last 10 or 20 starts in terms of number of strikeouts that he's been having. We already trust that the sports books have baked all of this information into their odds, the weather conditions, the historical data, maybe the player injury news. All of this is baked into the odds. So with this strategy, we are trusting that these sports books are using their millions of dollars into their research, into their algorithms. They are already pricing this into their odds. So that's why we don't have to spend a ton of time with this. That's why we really like this in terms of we're not focusing and spending a lot of time on one play, diving into the coaching strategies and who's playing and who's not playing. It's very simple. We're going to be diving into the tools here and explaining it. Now, on top of that, I would argue that with this strategy, it's almost better if you don't know anything about sports. And that's kind of another pro is you don't need to know anything about sports utilizing this strategy, right? We're picking off stale numbers. We're picking off books that if the sports betting market, while it might be inefficient in terms of these books are setting their own odds and prices on their own, they're making gobs of money off of the general public, right? So we are in a small community in the gambling community. We know that there's certain books that can be beat compared to maybe others in terms of just more of a consistent basis. So the reason that I mentioned that you don't need to know anything about sports is because we truly don't care with this strategy what's being played. I mean, if you tell your friends, like I do sometimes, I bet on esports, I bet on tennis, I bet on football, basketball, any sport. It doesn't matter with this strategy because all we care about is the price. If I told you with this strategy, and get used to this on the course today, guys, I'm going to be using a lot of different analogies. If I said, hey, I got this brand new iPhone, okay, just pulled it out of the case. I'll sell it to you for $2,000 right now. Here's the receipt where I bought it. I just bought it 30 minutes ago. Do you want it for $2,000? You'd be like, well, I already have an iPhone. Like I'm not really interested in paying $2,000 for a brand new iPhone when I already have one. But if I told you, hey, this brand new iPhone out of the case, I'll sell it to you for $20. You would say, all right, let me check the receipt. Okay. Like, yeah, I'll definitely buy that iPhone for $20 because A, I know that I can sell that iPhone to another store or shop for a much higher price, right? Because the price of the iPhone that I'm going to sell it to you for went from $2,000, which not a very good value, to $20, which is an insane value. Now we're interested. It doesn't matter what item we talk about, guys. When it's all about the price, then we're in. And so one thing that really helps is that not having any bias, not really knowing anything about sports. You don't need to because we only care about the price. I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm a huge Steelers fan. Something that drives me nuts is when I pull up OddsJam and the positive EV tool that I used for this strategy, if I see value on Ravens versus Steelers, Ravens minus 2.5, the tool is telling me, hey, Billy, you want to bet Ravens minus 2.5. Do you really think I want to bet Ravens minus 2.5? I hate the Baltimore Ravens. I don't want to do that. That means in order for my bet to win, my Steelers, my beloved Steelers, have to lose. I don't want to do that. Or maybe because I've been watching sports since I was 5 years old, there's certain players that I'm not really a fan of. I don't like Dylan Brooks of the Houston Rockets. I don't care for that guy at all, right? I think he's a bad villain. He stinks. Well, if the tool is telling me, hey, you want to bet Dylan Brooks tonight over on his points, there's really good value here. I don't want to do that. So not having any bias or thinking that that's something that doesn't really get talked about a lot. But with this strategy, guys, you are letting go of what you think in sports and as a sports bettor. Maybe you watch a lot of football, you watch a lot of soccer, whatever sport it may be. Maybe you focus on a team a lot. There are times where watching maybe your favorite team, knowing their tendencies, knowing how the coach likes to call games, the players he likes to plug in, maybe the way the Celtics like to bring in certain people off the bench. That can be helpful and useful. But with this strategy, we're letting go of all of that. We are just submitting to the fact that we're not very sharp. We're not smart. We trust that these sports books are. And if the sports books are making a lot of money off the general public, and we can find one sports book's odds that are a little stale to the rest of the market, that little edge is a really big deal. So then that's going to kind of bring into the next part of this strategy, where a lot of people are asking me, hey, Billy, I like this strategy. What's the optimal amount of bets we should place per day? Don't think of it that way. When I first started out, I had a number in my head that, hey, I'm just going to place like 20 bets every day. Once I hit my 20th bet, I'm done. I'm out. Really, you want to gobble up as many plays that you can that have an edge. That's the key here. Volume is the key. Obviously, do it responsibly. But you want to grab as many plays as you can that have an edge, because we're going to be getting paid out more than what we should with this strategy. We're picking off stale numbers. And what I mean by stale numbers is that one sports book has this price way higher than the other. We're going to jump into some different examples and explain it. But because we're getting paid out a little bit more than what we should, we're not going to win every single bet with this strategy. But the bets that we do win, that little bit of extra money that we're getting paid out, is a really big deal. So an example would be, the Saints on the money line. Maybe at FanDuel, they have it priced at plus 110. But maybe over at Bet Rivers, we can get this at plus 125. So that means on a $100 wager at FanDuel, plus 110 means our profit is $110. On Bet Rivers, it's going to be a $125 profit. So that's a difference of $15. Going to just another sports book, placing this wager. So you might say, well, Billy, $15 is kind of that's a decent amount, but that's just not a lot of money. True, that's just for one bet. But what if we did this for 1,000 bets or 5,000 bets? And granted, we're not going to win every single one of those bets, but the bets that we do win, if we're consistently getting paid out $5, $10, $15 extra, that adds up. And that's the edge. That's the power behind this play. We're also, think of this like the stock market, where we're finding an edge in the sports betting market. That edge, we keep piling on more of an edge from other plays onto this. That compounds exponentially. That's the power of this strategy. So we're going to be definitely getting into it, but not having a bias helps. And if you have a bias and if you've been watching sports, like most sports bettors, you're a big fan of just maybe teams, players, you've been watching sports for a long time, it's very difficult to let go of that bias, but it's very important to do so. There are times that I make bets that I'm not crazy about, right? I don't like the team, I don't like the situation, but I just succumb to the fact that sports are unpredictable. They are. And so the more that I can give into that notion, the easier it is just to say, you know what, I don't really know what's going to happen here, and I'm going to trust that the sports books are really sharp, and the fact that we're getting paid out more than what we should, that's the beauty behind this strategy. So in order to execute this strategy, you need to have some type of software, some type of odds screener. Maybe you're signed up to a Discord channel, and a lot of these Discord channels, guys, they just all follow, they're just really following the sharp sports books. Like we mentioned before in the beginning, these sharp sports books react quickly, right? Money comes in maybe on one side on a BetCris or a Pinnacle, and then the odds change. But these recreational books like ESPN Bet, FanDuel, DraftKings, they don't move their odds. They don't react as quickly. So the plays that we're going to pull up on this tool, I'm going to dive into specific plays, markets that I like to attack, sports books that I like to attack, and kind of dive into what I specifically look for. But another really big key with why this strategy works is because all these recreational books set odds on their own, they're very slow to react compared to the sharp sports books. So these plays that pop up on the screen, they're not going to sit out here for hours and hours on end. Typically, they stay out here a little bit longer on the screen than maybe say your typical arbitrage play. So you're going to have maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit longer than that. But for the most part, you don't have all day. But again, because this market is a living, breathing mechanism that's constantly fluctuating, you're going to be able, if you miss out on a play, no big deal. It's going to just come back. Also, depending on what's going on in the sports betting calendar season, there's going to be more opportunities. Like right now, I'm filming this in October, right? We're right smack dab in the middle of college football and NFL. The NHL started last week. We have the NBA regular season kicking off a week from today, right? MLB is basically in their playoffs. We have a lot of opportunities right now because there's a lot more going on in the sports betting calendar. Whereas if you look at this in June, there's just baseball, there's some WNBA, maybe a little college baseball. There's not as much going on in the summer months. So this strategy is even more profitable and abundant because of all the different opportunities in the fall and winter because there's just more sports going on. So another couple other things that I want to mention with the strategy, and I promise we'll get into the screen here, is you want to make sure that wherever you live, whatever state or country that you live with this strategy, we don't know where the market is going to show, where the value will show up on any given day. We really don't. So this strategy will work for you if you just have a FanDuel or a DraftKings account. But naturally, the more sports books that you have at your disposal, that just expands your opportunities for you, right? You're not limited. You're not limiting yourself to just, man, I just have a DraftKings account right here, right now, so I can only go after this. And again, with this strategy, guys, if let's say, I show you a play on this tool and, it's maybe betting on the Eagles money line and it's a really good value right now over at FanDuel and you go, hey, Billy, I can't get that over at FanDuel at that price. Maybe I'm like, hey, bet Eagles money line at plus 120. And you go, well, I could bet this at plus 105 over at ESPN Bet. Don't bet it. Don't bet it. That is a really big difference. So sometimes when we go into these plays, we're all about price with this strategy. We find a play in the market. It looks good. We have it teed up on the book. We're about ready to submit the bet, and then the price changes. And if the price changes below the price that we want it at, below the fair odds, then we don't make that bet. We don't force bets just for the hell of it. We also, if you have a different sportsbook that has different odds, don't tail the bet that I'm placing because it's all about the price, right? If you do it once or twice, you might be able to get by with that, but that's not the recipe for success, and that's not what this strategy is. So there definitely is structure and discipline. If you can find the price at what the odds screener or OddsJam is telling us to do, by all means, go after it. And so we're going to jump into the screen right now. Guys, I will mention that there is a 1-week free trial going on with OddsJam. It's going to be linked in the description. And then use my code Billy35. It'll save you 35% off your first month after the trial ends. So we're going to really dive into the filters. But whether you're using a Discord channel, whether you're using a different type of odds screener, this is really key. And having some type of tool that is going to identify value for you, because it's going to be very difficult manually on your own to pull up. We don't know what play or what market's going to show up when this odds screener does. And all this tool does is just scan the hundreds of thousands of different lines between all the sports books and shows us the profitable opportunities. So that's why we want to have as many sports books as we can, or that's available to us, because that just opens up our opportunities, right? So let's dive into the tool right now. Let's get into the nuts and the bolts of this strategy and specifically how I like to target certain plays. All right, so we're over here on the OddsJam Positive EV tool, and we already know that this tool's job is just to find us plays in the market that have an edge. So the first thing that we're going to focus on, though, is we have this part covered, but how much money should we be wagering on these plays? Well, on the top right-hand corner, come over to Profile, and then come over to bankroll settings, right? And so the strategy, the betting strategy that I use in terms of how much money I'm wagering on plays is the Kelly criterion method. This is one of the most, if not the most popular sports betting strategies out there. My multiplier is 0.25 or quarter Kelly. And when you're starting out, I would really recommend to stay within quarter Kelly. Anything that's above 0.25 is a very aggressive type of strategy. So we really like to keep it at 0.25. And then your bankroll. What do you have available for sports betting? All the money, if it's divvied up between various different sports books, what's that total number? So if you have $100 in DraftKings, $300 in FanDuel, your bankroll is $400. It's the combined amount between the two books. So that's what you're going to want to input right here. We come back over to the positive EV tool. Now we're going to first dive into some examples. We're going to just set up the filters. This is the way that I like to set up my filters. So for minimum, maximum odds, I keep the minimum odds blank. Maximum odds, I put at plus 200. Sometimes I will fluctuate between plus 150, plus 175, but I like to go plus 200. This is all just off of personal preference. Market width. Market width is the confidence that the sports books have in a play. The lower the number, the more confident the sports books have in the play. The higher the number, the less confident they are. So obviously, if the sports books have a low number, low market width, that means they have a large amount of confidence in the play. Then we're finding an edge in the market on this play. That gives us a lot of confidence as sports bettors. I keep the minimum market width blank, the maximum market width at 40 cents. Now, outside of that, everything else is just maybe date range. I'll look at the next 7 days. And then the sports books that I have accounts with. So I live in Pennsylvania for right now. I do have some offshore sports book accounts, but we're just going to focus on the American domestic books. And I am going to then come over here to markets, and I am going to focus just for this example on the main markets or the money line plays, right? So here's an example. Let me look at this Ottawa Senators money line play. This is for tomorrow's game, and we can kind of dive into. So I'm just going to hide this Steelers point spread bet here, and it's going to be a little bit easier to dive into. So money line play, who's going to win the hockey game? Are the Devils going to win, or are the Senators going to win? So we could see when I mentioned earlier how certain books use certain odds providers. We talked about Canby. That's why you see BetParks, BetRivers, and Sugar House all next to each other, because here in Pennsylvania, these are 3 books that I have access to. They all use Canby as their odds maker, so that's why their odds are all the same. But Rebet, Fanatics, DraftKings, they have different prices, right? So you understand that this tool, out of the hundreds of thousands of different odds and lines that we can look at, this tool is showing us the handful of plays, or at the moment for main market plays, there's 86 plays right here that have an edge. So we're looking at this EV percentage right here. You can click on this question mark sign right here, and we can literally read what expected value is. This is top-down sports betting, right? So we're looking at all the books on Senators money line right here. What's the odds? If we wagered $100 on FanDuel, we would profit $105. Where if we wagered $100 on, say, Sugar House or BetRivers, we're making $123. So that's a difference of $18 in our pocket for the same exact play. If you wager $10, you're getting $10.50 at FanDuel or DraftKings. You're getting $12.30 at BetRivers. So that's a really big deal. Now, what we're looking at here, how is this a good play? How do we even know this play has an edge? So we're looking at the market average for the Senators. The average odds between all of these books right now is plus 109. Now, what we are concerned with is the no vig odds right here. Let's just round up and say plus 118. The no vig odds is the fair odds. So one of my favorite analogies, you go to the car dealership and you want to buy a brand new car at $50,000. You ask the salesman, hey, what's the Kelley Blue Book price on this car? And they say, well, it's actually $47,000. So you know that the market price for this car is $50,000. The fair price is $47,000. If you could go to the dealership across the street and get this car for anything below $47,000, you know you're receiving an incredible value. Same thing with sports betting. The market average price for Senators money line right now is plus 109 odds. The fair price is plus 118. Anything that is above plus 118, there's value. Now, within this example, in any of these other examples that we're going to talk about, I do not talk or speak in absolutes. Everything lives within a gray area. All of these sports books are providing their projections of what they think is going to happen, who's going to win the hockey game here. So this all lives in a little bit of a gray area. Now, how we come to all of these numbers here, really the no vig odds and this win probability, this is the same thing here, guys. If I open up a odds converter calculator, all the calculators here on OddsJam are free, and I type in plus 117, spot 97, you can see that that win probability is 45.88%. If I told you, hey, I have a 45.88% chance of winning this bet, that equals plus 117.97. So that's how this That's how this works, right? We just round up a little bit for this probability. So these are the exact same. The probability and the no vig odds are the exact same. And so when it comes to this strategy, we not only need to get a price that's better than the market price, but we need to get a price that's better than the no vig odds. Okay. Now, one other thing that I will mention when I come and click over here, I am using the OddsJam no vig odds. There are two different ways that we can use an odds comparison. If we went after Pinnacle, as I mentioned before, they're one of the most sharpest or accurate sports books in the world. This play would not pop up on the EV tool. Why? Because Pinnacle doesn't have odds set for this hockey game yet, because I'm recording this on a Wednesday afternoon and this game is for tomorrow evening. So Pinnacle will have odds for this game, but not currently as of recording. Also, the DVIG method. We talked about the no vig odds. There are 3 plans at OddsJam: silver, gold, and platinum. I am using the platinum plan right now, guys. For silver and gold, you're using multiplicative or default. I love multiplicative. I use this default method for over 2.5 years. For the last couple of months, though, I've been using worst case. This will compute from the available supported DVIG methods and return the least favorable odds from this set. What the hell does that mean, Billy? That means this is the most conservative approach when determining what the no vig odds are. If I change this to best case, you're going to see that the EV percentage has went up slightly to 2.89%. This is the most aggressive DVIGing method in terms of figuring out what our no vig odds are. So when I come to worst case, watch the EV percentage. It's going to lower to 2.31%. So I am taking the most conservative approach possible. A lower EV percentage means that we have a lower recommended bet size. So because I'm taking the most conservative approach when it comes to finding what the no vig odds are, I have a lot of confidence that the tool, if it's recommended me a play on right here, I know that there's an edge. I know that I want to wager on this game. Now, when it comes to OddsJam's tools, as I mentioned before, we are currently selected on main markets. A new feature that OddsJam has recently unveiled is not so much the market tool, but the fact now that we have the ability to dive into specific markets and target certain markets. So I find this extremely useful if you want to dive into certain markets, or maybe, you track your bets. And OddsJam has a free bet tracker. I've been using it for 3 years. It's very helpful and insightful. Maybe you dive into and you figure out, there's a great edge right now over on betting NHL moneyline plays on Bet Rivers. Well, you can set up your filters and parameters to find these types of plays. So as I mentioned before, with top-down sports betting strategy, we're just picking off stale numbers. Why do we like this play, right? Now, it's the opposite when we're looking at favorite odds compared to underdog odds. So on the Senators, right, we know the market price is plus 109. $100 wager pays us out $109. The fair price is plus 118. $100 wager pays us out $118. Well, over at Bet Rivers, we're getting value because a $100 wager pays us out $123. It's the opposite with favorites. The average odds right here for Zalgiris is minus 123, okay? So we need the fair odds to be below this number, which it is at minus 115. So this means we'd have to put up $123 to profit $100. For the fair odds, we only have to put up $115 to profit $100. Well, on Bet365, for this specific point spread right here, we only have to put up $110 to profit $100. So there isn't value on FanDuel or DraftKings for this play. Why? Because the minus 122 on FanDuel is a higher number than the no vig fair odds. We need a number for below minus 115. That's why there's value on Bet365. Same thing with DraftKings. Minus 135 is a higher number than minus 115. So if you're like, you know what, Billy, I don't have a Bet365 account. They're not available in the state that I live in, but I do have a DraftKings account. Can I just bet this on DraftKings? No, absolutely not. I only have to put up $110 to profit $100. You have to put up $135 to make the same profit. If this bet loses, you had to stake an extra $25 to receive the same payout. So when we click on this purple calculator here on the left-hand side, if we change this from minus 110 to the DraftKings price of minus 135, you can see on the left-hand corner here, we're getting a very negative expected value. And while this might not seem like a big deal for one wager, when we are placing 100, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 bets, always getting a worse price, getting paid out less, or losing more because we had to stake more, this is a recipe for losing as a sports bettor. That's why that little edge, that little extra that we're either putting up that we're making on when we win a bet, or in this case, if we lost this bet on Bet365, we didn't have to stake as much as we would have to on maybe FanDuel or DraftKings. So that's why this is really important. So one of the things that I love to attack on OddsJam's tools is the main market plays. We talked about before that there's a lot of interest and popularity in main market plays. So over here on FanDuel, as you can see here in the top, I am not logged into this sportsbook right now. If we come over to Dodgers money line, remember, a lot of interest, a lot of action being taken on this baseball game. Who's going to win the game? So if I wanted to wager maybe $5 million on this play, you could see that FanDuel is going to accept a max wager of just over $13,000. So as we mentioned before, different sports books offer different limits when it comes to this game. So we know at FanDuel, I'm not even logged in, the max wager is just over $13,000 on Dodgers money line. If I come over to one of the sharp books that I mentioned before, Bookmaker, and we wanted to wager on the Dodgers money line, you can see that the maximum wager is $33,000. So this is why we reference these sharper sports books, because they take more action, more liquidity. Now, if we went over to FanDuel, and let's say we wanted to wager on a more niche type of prop, like who's going to record a stolen base, maybe Francisco Lindor. Well, if we wanted to wager just $1,000, we couldn't even do so. The max wager here is $750. So that brings me back to my next point. When we're looking at the EV tool, I have a ton of comfort and confidence in that if the EV tool is telling us that these main market plays, like the Senators money line, there's an edge here, I have supreme confidence in this play because I know that there's a lot of money coming in to this market and to this play. So any type of edge that we can find on these main market plays, this is a really big deal. So now that you understand the basis of top-down sports betting, we're going to dive into some specific plays that I like to target outside of the main market plays. And more specifically, what are some plays that I really stay away from? Right? Sometimes we're receiving conflicting information. So this positive EV tool on OddsJam, it's a lot like going to the grocery store and you wanted to buy some apples. Maybe you're a big Red Delicious apples fan. And so when you go to the grocery store, you see a lot of really good looking apples that are spread out in front of you. But as you start to personally inspect each apple, you'll notice, well, this one kind of has a little bit of a bruise on it. It's not bad, but I don't know if I'm going to add that to my bag. And then you're like, well, this one looks better than the one I just looked at. I like this one. So what we're looking at on this tool is a bunch of really sharp plays. These plays on this tool are much better than any tout service is going to offer you any types of picks. But I specifically dive into each individual play and I inspect the plays myself. And as I mentioned before, if some of these plays and markets that OddsJam is recommending, these are newer markets, if you will. And so within the recreational sportsbook ecosystem, it's sometimes very difficult for me to know who to trust. And something that I want to drive the point home with this strategy, guys, don't force a bet. Don't make a bet just because you want to make a bet. We want the elite bets out of this screener on this tool, right? We already have a really high quality number of bets on this tool, but we're going to go and personally inspect these bets. We want the elite plays. So we're going to dive into some examples where maybe Pinnacle, sometimes these sharp sports books like Pinnacle, Bookmaker, Circa, they don't create markets for certain markets, right? We maybe only have, the recreational sports books to go off of. And sometimes we're going to get conflicting information. I'm not really sure if we should bet the over or the under. And in that case, we're just going to walk away. Let me show you. So the example of where maybe I would just walk away, we're looking at the second half team total of the Kansas City Chiefs over 12.5. Now, OddsJam is telling us this is a 7% edge in the market. Now, granted, as I showed you earlier, I am using the most conservative DVIG method. So any other DVIGing method that I would be using for OddsJam would give me a higher percentage and tell me to wager more than $490 on this play. But there's only 3 sports books offering their opinion on this total. Granted, as I mentioned, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. This game isn't until Sunday, but I don't know. Maybe FanDuel is really sharp on this play. Maybe we want to use FanDuel. Maybe they're a little stale and we want to pick them off. Now, we can also arbitrage this play. Typically, when you see an arbitrage opportunity on the EV tool, that's a very good indicator that one of the books is very stale. Meaning, if we wagered money on Bet365, the plus odds here are bigger than the minus odds, so we could actually bet the under and the over, bet the under on FanDuel, the over on Bet365. We can make risk-free profit. Now, because there's only 3 sports books offering their opinion on this play, this is a play that I do not wager on. I don't target this. And maybe I'm leaving some money out on the table. But because there isn't enough opinions here from other sports books, I don't know which book I should pick off. OddsJam's telling me bet the one over at Bet365, but maybe they're a little sharper here, and maybe the play we should go after is FanDuel. So this is an example where I just walk away. Now here's an example of a play that I would absolutely attack a sports book like SportsZeno when we're looking at the Rams -6. A lot of sports books are offering their opinion on this Rams-Raiders game in terms of the spread. But 2 of my sharp sports books that I really lean on, Bookmaker and Pinnacle, say this should be between -126 or -132. We are getting this play at -114, which is a massive discount compared to looking at the rest of the sports betting market. Now, something else that's very important to note, guys. The recommended bet size for me to place on this book for this play is $140. I stick to this amount very closely. Granted, this lives in a gray area. It's not black or white. All of this lives in a gray area. So sometimes I might deviate a little bit. I might go down. Maybe for this play specifically, I have a lot of confidence on this. I might go up to maybe 170, 175 at most. But I don't look at this play and say, you know what? I'm going to wager $500 or $1,000 on this play. I don't go way off the rails and just increase this wager size by a lot. I stick to the parameters because something that you need to understand is no matter how much you're in love with a play, you don't want to just start throwing random amounts of money down, right? This is all derived off of the edge that we're receiving in the market. What's the no vig fair odds? What's the odds that we're receiving? That all this computes to our edge. Then we're looking at our bankroll, how much we have allotted for sports betting. That Kelly multiplier, that spits out a recommended bet size. So there is a level of safety with this recommended wager size. And then also, because this is a point spread play, a main play on the NFL, I have a lot more confidence on this play compared to over at Rebet, Bridget Carlton at +104. Even though the odds might have just changed right here, the fact is, as we mentioned before in the example, this is a player prop bet. We can't wager as much money on player prop bets as we can with money lines or point spreads. So this is, even though they're recommending a lower wager amount, I don't have as much confidence in this player prop bet as I do for Rams -6. So there are a couple different factors that come into this, which number one is we talked about the market that we're wagering into. This is a main point spread or slightly alternate point spread where we're looking at a player prop with player points. Also, this is the WNBA, not nearly as popular as the NFL. So because we're getting this on an NFL point spread, this increases my confidence even more. So what you really need to understand is when we're looking at the tool here and we're looking at these various different plays, what you're going to find at times is OddsJam at times, in my opinion, really kind of props up player props a little bit more than mainline spreads and totals. And so the difference here is that you're going to see some really niche markets, first quarter team total, first quarter point spread. Not saying that there isn't value in this play, but I have a lot more confidence when we're looking at money line spreads and totals for NFL, maybe compared to the WNBA, because there's just more popularity, there's more money coming into this play, and definitely more confidence in those mainline totals compared to player prop bets. So the recommended bet size that you're receiving from OddsJam, you want to stick to this amount. Just don't say, well, this play is really sharp, and just start making up numbers in your own head, because that's an easy way to go off the rails, right? As we mentioned, sports are unpredictable. We just want to gobble up as many plays on that tool as we possibly can that has an edge, right? That's the name of the game, but we want to make sure that we're wagering a responsible amount per play based off of the edge, right? No different than when you go grocery shopping or shopping in general. And maybe you receive a buy one, get one free deal, right? Maybe you're buying 2 cases of Coca-Cola, you get that 3rd case for free. Well, you're getting a really good deal, but that doesn't mean that you're just going to go ahead and buy a bunch of more cases because the deal says so. But as we mentioned before in the iPhone, maybe I have 10 other iPhones and I can sell this to you for, $20 a phone. Well, then you're going to want to buy all the brand new iPhones that I have that I'm selling because you're getting an awesome deal. So just because maybe you love a play and the edge isn't massive, that doesn't mean that you start throwing extra money, a lot more money down on these plays. So if maybe, the recommended bet size is $50, guys, keep it within $10 one way or the other, right? 40, maybe you're not feeling confident about it, well then put 40 down. If you're feeling really confident on it, maybe put 60. Don't go from a $50 wager size and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put $200 on this play, right? We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the edge that we find. Now, as you saw on this tool, there are so many different markets. There's so many different sports books that are out there right now that you can attack. Something that I like to do, if you find an edge, you find plays or markets that you're doing very well in. For myself, for the NFL, with FanDuel, specifically FanDuel, anytime touchdown scores in the NFL, 6 weeks into the season, I'm crushing them. College football on Fliff, total points, not first quarter total points, not first half total points, but the total points in general. I am crushing Fliff on college football. You know what I'm doing right now for football season? I am not diving into a lot of different markets. I know that I have an edge on Fliff. I have an edge on FanDuel. By the way, you're welcome for the edge. These edges are really solid on these books. I just rinse and repeat. I try to simplify the process as much as I can. So if this is easier for me because I've been placing hundreds, if not thousands of bets so far this football season. So I've exported my bets onto an Excel spreadsheet. I've dove into the numbers. I've seen where I have an edge. When you find edges with certain markets, with certain sports books, don't complicate it. Keep it simple. If you know that you can crush a certain sports book on player pitching strikeouts in the MLB all season long, then just rinse and repeat. Beat the crap out of this sports book for as long as you can, right? It's really easy sometimes to start wagering in a bunch of different markets with a bunch of different books, and maybe you're not doing so well. Maybe because there are times, guys, with this strategy, you're going to go through some losing streaks. This happens. So you're going to hear this term talked all the time when it comes to positive EV betting, when it comes to top-down sports betting, which is the long run or long-term, you're going to win. And nobody knows what the hell long-term is. This is not just day in and day out, but after a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, continuously gobbling up plays that have an edge. And if you start to notice that with a specific book in a specific market, you're not doing very well in, then maybe it's the fact that maybe the tool isn't as sharp. What they're recommending, maybe we want to go away from those types of plays. So one thing that OddsJam's done a great job is they've added a lot more plays and markets to their menu. But as sports bettors, that can kind of be contradictory because it can be very difficult to then know we're betting with a bunch of different markets and maybe we're not seeing the results we want to do. So if nothing else, guys, when you find plays in markets that have an edge, just continuously attack those books. Our edges in these markets aren't going to last forever, but take advantage of them for as long as you can. The other reason that I love this strategy is, as I mentioned before, we're picking off books, stale numbers, right? We're getting paid out more than what we should. It's a lot easier for me to implement and use this strategy because if I do have some losing bets, go on some losing streaks, I can sleep well at night. Right? I know that I made the right play. I know that that play for the Senators money line was a good play over at Bet Rivers. Good bets lose and bad bets win. That's a part of sports betting. But I can lay my head down and knowing I got the best price possible. I found a sharp play. The Senators just didn't show up to play that night. They got blown out 5-0, right? It's a little bit tougher when it comes to originating. That's bottom up, where you're creating your own model. You're trying to figure out your own edges, right? I'm not a data scientist. I'm not saying that you can't originate and bottom up, But it's very difficult going that route compared to top-down sports betting because you're testing out this model. You're not really sure if you're finding edges in the market. You're trusting what the numbers are telling you from your model. You're betting it, but it's really kind of back and forth, a teeter-totter. You're not really sure. With this strategy, I know that I'm getting the best price possible. And the name of the game with this strategy is beating the closing line value. It is by far the number one indicator that we know that's how we can beat the sports books long term. And guess what? The sports books know this too. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is by beating the closing line value. So we get the Senators at plus 123 on the money line. Guess what? When the puck drops tomorrow, the money line for the Senators might come down to plus 110. Well, guess what that means? We beat Vegas. We got a better price than the closing line value. Now, I like to place bets a few days in advance. I love to bet specifically with football. I love to make bets on early in the week, right? Sunday night for college football. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for NFL and college football. I love to place bets multiple days in advance. Sometimes the lines work against us. Maybe some injury news comes out that we didn't have a few days ago. It works against us. But more times than not, I'm getting a better price compared to the market, beating the closing line value. That's called beating Vegas. If you can beat the closing line value at least above 60% of the time, you are going to be a profitable sports bettor. And that's the name of the game with this strategy. You're consistently getting a better price, getting paid out more than what you should, and it's going to be a long-term profitable betting strategy. If you found value in this course, then it would mean so much to me if you smash the thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification so you don't miss any videos that I drop. If you found value in this free course and you would like to see other free courses or other topics discussed more in depth and detail like this, a very long form video where I'm going into great detail, really spilling out all the knowledge that I have, feel free to do so. Also, if you're new to my channel, I live stream every single day, placing bets, going through OddsJam's tools, showing you my process, showing you what I'm thinking, talk through different plays. It's an awesome time. I do it twice on Mondays through Thursdays, 9 a.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I do it one day. Currently right now in the fall. For Saturdays, it's an hour before college football kickoff, so at 11 a.m. And for the NFL, it's at noon Eastern, an hour before the games kick off for the 1 o'clock slate is when I live stream. Come stop by, start to learn the process. Trust me, you will become a sharper, smarter sports bettor utilizing the strategy. And for myself, guys, I cannot go back to the old ways. Right? It's a completely different way. It's transformed the way that I've thought about sports betting, and it's made me profitable, and I want to make sure that I share that with you guys. So if you find value in the content, definitely let me know. If there's something that I missed in this whole entire course that I didn't get to touch on, let me know in the comments below. I like to think that I touched on a lot of different things, but you want to make sure that you're mitigating your risk with your bankroll management. You want to make sure that you're picking off numbers off of stale books that you're getting a good price. If the price changes in the middle of you ready to click that submit button, don't submit the bet. The price changes, we don't want it anymore. We just rinse and repeat and find another play in the market, right? But otherwise, guys, I cannot thank you enough for divulging and taking in this entire course. The NBA season is here, guys, and you need to make sure that you check out this NBA player prop betting strategy that I broke down step by step like this free course where I go through the odds range that we're going to want to focus on, the sports books that we're going to want to attack, and then I exported all of my bets to an Excel spreadsheet. I dive into the specific player prop markets that have been extremely profitable for me over the last 2 NBA seasons. That video is going to be right here. Make sure to click into it, dive into the strategy, because we have the NBA is by far, guys, the best sport to bet on. So many profitable opportunities. And like I mentioned before, the player prop market, there's so many markets, it's really hard to understand maybe where we have an edge. This video is going to cut out that BS and just give you exactly what you need.